This is not just a palace, and it's not just a monument. This is Alhambra, a fortress rising above Granada built of stone, light, water, and memory. For centuries, this hill ruled the city below. Kings governed, empires watched their borders, and an entire world was shaped behind these walls. Islamic geometry, Christian ambition, power, beauty, and silence, layered in stone. People travel from across the world to stand here. But Alhambra is not a place you simply visit. You enter it, you move through it, and slowly, it begins to speak. This is the story of a city within a city, of gardens meant to resemble paradise, of palaces built not to impress, but to control light, space, and time. This is Alhambra, and this is where we begin. This is just one, though the main one, of our stops during a weekend spent in Granada and Malaga. Because even if the Alhambra is the city's greatest magnet, it is far from its only beauty. Granada is layered with churches, monasteries, streets, and stories that deserve just as much attention. And we've explored those in a separate video. But here, we begin with this place, with its history. Long before Granada became the final chapter of medieval Spain, this hill was already strategic. In the 9th century, the first fortifications rise here. Not palaces, but walls, towers, and defenses. Then comes the Nasrid dynasty, the last Muslim rulers of Al-Andalus. And over the course of the 13th and 14th centuries, the Alhambra transforms from a military stronghold into a royal city. Palaces replace barracks. Gardens soften stone. Water becomes architecture. This is no longer just a fortress. It is power made visible. And this story reaches its breaking point after years of siege. In 1492, the long struggle finally ends. Granada falls. The united forces of Isabella of Castile and Ferdinand of Aragon enter the city after years of pressure, blockade, and negotiation. The last Nasrid ruler, Muhammad XII, known as Boabdil, surrenders the keys to Granada. With that moment, the last Muslim kingdom on the Iberian Peninsula comes to an end. 7 centuries of Islamic rule in Spain are over. The Alhambra does not fall in flames. It does not collapse under violence. It changes hands, from an Islamic royal city to a symbol of Christian victory. A palace of one world becomes a monument in another. And that is what makes this place so powerful. Because the Alhambra is not a ruin of defeat. It is a witness to the end of an era and the beginning of a new one. From this point on, the Alhambra will no longer be expanded as a Muslim palace. Instead, it will be preserved, reshaped, and slowly transformed into what we see today. A place where conquest did not erase beauty, but froze it in time. And that is why, when you walk through these halls, you are not just walking through architecture. You are walking through the moment when history changed direction. And slowly, we make our way through the narrow streets of Granada. Yes, of course, getting to the Alhambra means going uphill. If you start seeing these small souvenir shops, you know you're close. From there, it's about another 15 minutes, still uphill, step by step. And then you reach the entrance. One important thing to know: a ticket alone is not enough to enter the Alhambra. You must also carry a valid ID or passport. Without it, you will not be allowed inside. And then we continue. We have a plan. We begin at the Church of Santa María de la Alhambra. This is one of the first Christian buildings inside the Alhambra complex. It was built in the 16th century, on the site of the former royal mosque. Once again, not by coincidence. The church is simple, restrained, and almost modest when compared to the palaces around it. It doesn't compete with the Alhambra. It anchors it, a reminder that after 1492, this place entered a new chapter. Here, Christian liturgy replaced Islamic prayer. Stone remained. Power changed. The church marks the transition between worlds, between faiths, between eras. And from here, we move deeper inside, from Christian silence into the heart of the Nasrid Palaces. From the church, we move just next door, to a building that feels completely different. The Palace of Charles V. At first glance, it almost seems out of place. Massive, geometric, strict. Built in the 16th century by order of Emperor Charles V, this was meant to be a clear statement. A Renaissance palace placed directly inside the heart of the Alhambra. Not hidden, not adapted, inserted. Its perfect circle courtyard, surrounded by heavy stone walls, stands in sharp contrast to the delicate ornamentation of the Nasrid Palaces nearby. This is architecture of power, of control, of empire. Today, the palace no longer serves a royal purpose. It houses museums, including the Museum of the Alhambra and the Museum of Fine Arts of Granada. Inside, the story shifts, from rulers to craftsmen, from conquest to preservation. It explains how the Alhambra was built, how it survived, and how it was nearly lost before being rediscovered and protected. The Palace of Charles V was never finished as intended, but perhaps that is fitting. It stands as a reminder that even power has limits, and that history does not replace itself. And now we head into the fortress, the Alcazaba. At every checkpoint, we show our tickets again. Access here is strictly controlled, and every section has its own entry. This was the original heart of the Alhambra, the oldest part of the entire complex. Before palaces, before gardens, before decoration. This was about defense. The Alcazaba is a military structure. Walls, towers, narrow passages. Everything here was built for control, of movement, of sight, of the city below. From the towers, Granada spreads out beneath us. The Albaicin, the city center, the mountains beyond. This is where power once stood watch, not in silence, but in readiness. The contrast is immediate. No ornament, no poetry. Just stone, wind, and distance. And that's exactly what makes this place important. Because before the Alhambra became a palace of beauty, it was a fortress of survival. And from here, the entire story begins to make sense. And this plaque tells us exactly why this place matters. This is not decoration. It is a record. It marks the moment when Granada changed hands, when the keys of the city were surrendered, and when the bell of the Torre de la Vela rang out for the first time under Christian rule. The sound was meant to be heard across the entire city, not as music, but as a message. The siege was over. The reconquest was complete, and a new era had begun. Here, history was not written quietly. It was announced, in stone and in sound. And then, time slows down. We reach the entrance to the place where most people simply stop talking. The Nasrid Palaces. Entry here is strictly timed. You don't wander in by chance. You enter at an exact moment. And right now, it's our turn. These palaces were built between the 13th and 14th centuries, by the Nasrid dynasty, the last Muslim rulers of Granada. This was not just a residence, it was the political, ceremonial, and symbolic heart of their kingdom. Every space here was designed with intention. Nothing is accidental. The walls are covered in inscriptions, but not images. Islamic art avoids human figures, so the decoration speaks through geometry, calligraphy, and rhythm. Most of the texts you see are poems, verses praising God, verses praising the ruler, and one phrase that appears again and again, Wala Ghalib illa Allah. There is no victor but God. It is the motto of the Nasrid dynasty. Repeated hundreds of times, a reminder that power here was meant to appear humble, even at its peak. And then there is the water. Water is not decoration here. It is structure. It arrives from the Sierra Nevada mountains, brought to the Alhambra through a complex system of canals and aqueducts built in the 13th century. That system still works today. The water flows constantly, silently, by gravity alone. No pumps, no machines, just engineering, precision, and an understanding of landscape. Water cools the air. It reflects the architecture. It creates sound. In the Nasrid Palaces, water replaces walls. It divides space without blocking it. It moves the eye and slows the body. The colors you see, reds, blues, golds, were once far more intense. Time has softened them, but traces remain in the ceilings and upper walls, where original paint survived longer, protected from touch and light. This was not a palace of stone. It was a palace of surface. Plaster carved so finely that it feels lighter than air. Architecture designed not to dominate, but to dissolve. Nothing here is meant to be seen quickly. The patterns do not repeat. The symmetry is never exact. The longer you look, the more the space changes. And that is the point. The Nasrid Palaces were built to be experienced slowly, as movement, as sound, as light. This is not architecture that shouts power. It whispers it. And when you realize that this world survived conquest, neglect, and centuries of change, you understand why this place feels unreal. Because it is not just preserved, it is still alive. And then one final stop awaits us. The gardens. The Generalife. This was not a palace of power. It was a place of retreat. Built in the 13th century, the Generalife served as the summer residence of the Nasrid rulers, a space to escape the formality of court life and step into quiet. Here, everything changes. Stone gives way to greenery, walls open into paths, and architecture steps back, allowing nature to lead. Water flows everywhere, through narrow channels, along stairways, into fountains and pools. Just like in the palaces, the water comes from the Sierra Nevada, guided here by the same medieval irrigation system that still functions today. Nothing is forced. Nothing is wasted. The gardens were designed not for spectacle, but for balance. Shade and light. Sound and silence. Movement and rest. Every tree, every hedge, every path was placed to create calm. This was a vision of paradise, not imagined, but engineered. From here, the Alhambra feels distant. You hear the city below, but it no longer matters. What remains is rhythm, breath, and time moving slowly again. And with that, our journey through the Alhambra comes to an end. Not with a monument, not with a tower, but with a garden. Because in the end, this place was never only about power. It was about harmony, between water and stone, between nature and design, between the world outside and the one within.